Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to term 3 here at Lethbridge Park Public School. So we've returned with a range of restrictions in place as a result of the New South Wales Government stay-at-home order. One of those restrictions does include adults wearing masks indoors at all times whilst at school, and there are a range of other restrictions which we'll go over in a moment. I guess the big thing from a parental point of view is kids will be at home in the main part, and we're trying to work on a way that we can support both learning within our school community, but we also want to make sure that we keep our community, our students and our staff safe. And really the best way for us to do that is to make sure everyone stays as close as possible to home and not to give anybody an excuse to come out. So we have a roadmap which the Department of Education has shared with us, which is based on the best advice from the New South Wales Government. And this is what it will look like for us here at school. So there are 4 levels, and you can see on the right-hand side, there's guidance around mask wearing. So level 1 is the most basic level of operation, which we would see schools return to when COVID is under control. Level 4 is the most significant range of impact upon schools and restrictions, and that is where we are at the moment. So you can see it builds upon what's happening. So what will happen when we come back this week is that learning from home will be encouraged. Of course, no student will be turned away from school. However, as our priority is to make sure that I have the smallest number of people on site, because staff really should be, where possible, at home, supporting learning from their own house environment. The more students that we have at home allows that to happen and reduces the chances of mingling. So the sorts of mingling that can cause problems, I guess, would be around pick up and drop off, lots of adults in the staff room, parents in and out of the school site, all those sorts of things that we've heard talked about in the media. We won't have a canteen at school during level 4, that will be closed. There'll be no community use of the school. There would be no scripture happening, no assemblies, no excursions, no singing. And the big thing is that for students in year 7 and above, which doesn't apply to Lethbridge Park, they would have to be wearing masks in all indoor settings, and staff and other adults in the school site have to wear masks in all indoor settings. So that is what school's going to look like as we come back, and it's my job to work within that and to have a plan that we think is going to work for Lethbridge Park Public School. So in terms of our school, how that's going to work is tomorrow we will commence remote learning, and we have got a range of resources that are being prepared as we speak, and we'll get to those in a minute, which will support exactly the same learning outcomes that would have been addressed at a school level had the students have been here. However, they will actually be off-site. There will only be one model of learning. So for the very small number of students who do have to come to school, the parents may be essential workers, etc. There may be another alternative. They will of course be welcomed as you would expect, and we will make sure that they are engaged in their work booklets, but they won't be taught in the same way as in a normal day. They will be completing the same work that they would be completing at home. Now last year when we went to remote learning, the students in years 3 through 6 were using an online model, and the younger students were using a paper-based model. For the next 4 days, and that's the only certainty at the moment we've got around level 4 restrictions, everybody at Lethbridge Park School will be using the one model, which will be a paper-based version. Should level 4 restrictions be extended, then we will move our years 3 through 6 students onto an online platform. It was very difficult for us to work a way of distributing materials, devices, and connecting with our community during the school vacation period. So this 4 days allows us to have learning, often going from tomorrow morning, but also to plan for the future should that be required. So the take-home packs will be grade-based. They will be available via our school website. So probably the easiest way and the most the way that's most consistent with the New South Wales direction would be to log on to our school website. And on the right-hand side of our school website, you would see that there will be a little tab that will say remote learning bundles. And you can go in there you can open up those bundles, and you can, if you've got a printer at home, you could print those out and the students could commence working on those. And there'll be a bundle there for each grade. And throughout the week, the teachers will start to add supplementary materials, website links, and videos, etc., that will support learning at home. And that will be done on a grade basis. So that means that in year 1, for instance, Miss Calic may do a video about math, Miss Ray may do one about English, and we might have Miss McDonald who's doing something around art, for instance, and they will work together at a grade level. Throughout the week, you would expect to have a couple of phone calls home from school. Number one, we want to check, make sure everyone's okay, keep those connections going. But particularly for the students in years 3 through 6, the teachers are going to be asking questions about what computer facilities you have at your house. Do you have Wi-Fi? Are you able to connect to the internet? Because should level 4 restrictions be continued, and we have no information about that at the moment, but should they be continued, our intention will be to move away from the paper-based model for our older students onto an online platform as we did last year. And we'll be spending this week monitoring what's happening and heading towards that, should we be in a level 4 restrictions from Monday week 2. For our younger students, they'll continue to operate via both Seesaw for the kindergarten year 1 and year 2 students, and Story Park for preschool, supported by take-home packages. So the take-home packages have created a real challenge for us, because we need to make sure that we can get those home, but we also can't create a situation where we have a whole lot of parents coming to the school site. That would be certainly non-essential. We can't create a situation where parents are parking down the road, leaving home and walking up to school. So we've tried to adopt a COVID testing type approach where, you drive through a COVID testing centre. We're going to try to do the same thing here at school tomorrow morning, and that will be from 9 to 12. So that's the window in which take-home packets can be picked up. And I do stress, if you have the facilities to print these at home, it would be so much better to do so, because that will avoid the need for you to come out of the house. However, if you don't have that facility, we have another option. Now, up on the screen, there should be an overhead shot of our school, and you can see down here, this is Chipmunks. We've got Mariana Crescent that goes all the way along the school. Here are our fields. And up the top here, this is J Block, which is the old stage that's up the top. And where these cars are, this is typically where our teachers would park cars. This is the infants building here. So tomorrow morning from 9 to 12, these cars won't be there. And we will have a series of tables lined up here with a couple of our staff, and they will have all of the take-home packs available for all of our students in the school. You could drive in, or if you're walking, you could walk in, drive along here, and through the window of your car, you'll be able to say, can I please have 1 year 1 package, 1 year 2 package, for instance. We'll give you that package. You can then do a U-turn and you can drive out. So it's sort of as contactless as we can possibly make it. And we will just have that window open from 9 to 12. So that will be our pickup model for tomorrow morning. Should level 4 restrictions be continued and we find the drive-through process workable, that is what we would do for next week, but we will find that out tomorrow once we've gone through that process. And of course, what we do want is we do want everybody to be engaged in all of those activities in a meaningful way. And as I said earlier, the students that do have to attend school, whilst they will be welcome, they will be completing exactly those same activities. And they may not be completing with their regular school teacher. So we've had to engage a number of school teachers to be able to come and to supervise the students, because the regular classroom teachers will need to be involved in supporting remote learning, which includes contacting parents, making the videos, preparing supplementary materials, and of course, we're planning for next week as well. The other thing that we do need to think about is our preschool. So again, there may be a very small number of preschool students for whom attendance here is essential. Their parents may be essential workers. However, because visitors on the school site is something that we really are discouraging, what will happen is those students can enter with their parents via the Copeland Road gate, and they'll be met by the teacher at 9 o'clock at the Rose Garden, and they'll be signed in at that point and then escorted up. In the afternoon, the preschool teacher will bring them back to the Rose Garden at 2:45 and sign them out. That avoids the need to have parents inside our school and inside the buildings. Any other student that arrives this week, and as I said, this would be a very small number, they would have to come in through the Copeland Road gate. All the other gates will be closed and they will go in, they will go straight to class. And once they get to class, we will assess how many students are here before we finalise our daily plans. It is important for us that we minimise mingling of cohorts, so we can't have all the kids in the playground at the same time. But based on last year's experience, I would probably expect we would have, maybe 5 or 10 students here across the school. It would be a fairly small number indeed. The other thing to remember is that anybody who is sick would need to have a COVID test if they're sick with flu symptoms, those sorts of things, and that applies to our staff here at school as well. Now, I can't stress enough how important it is that we move our communication away from physical face-to-face communication. We have a school website which has got links to email us. You can telephone us here at school. Do bear in mind that on a given day, there will only be a very small number of staff here, perhaps only a quarter of our staff. And when you telephone here, the person that answers the phone may not physically be on site. They may be at home and the phone will ring at their place rather than here at school. So it changes how we do our communication just a little bit. But the idea of that is, of course, to make sure we're keeping as many people at home as we possibly can. Now, at this stage, we are expecting that level 4 restrictions will stay within just the next 4 days. That is the current advice that we've received from the Premier. However, of course, the New South Wales government is monitoring the numbers of COVID infections as closely as possible, and we would be waiting for some updated advice. And as soon as we hear at a school level what the implications are for next week, we will let everybody know. But other than that, I do need to stress, as much as I can, the importance of supporting the New South Wales government's stay-at-home direction and remote learning. Any student that arrives will, of course, be accommodated and won't be turned away. But where possible, remote learning is the desired option. The other thing that I do need to ask is, one of the big priorities is to avoid mingling. So if you are dropping your child off at school, where possible, if you can drop them off, but you not hop out of the car, because parents talking at the gate and that sort of stuff is part of the issue. If there's anything we can do for you, though, do please contact the school, send us an email, or make a phone call, and we'll be able to connect with you in that way. Other than that, I would expect we'll have some updated advice for you later on in the week. I'll endeavour to wait until we get advice from the New South Wales government and the Department of Education. So far, thank you for your support. We are making up some plans as we go along, but you know what? We have done this before. I was fairly content with how we did it last year. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're just refining it. So from everybody here at Lethbridge Park, whether we're here physically or virtually, we look forward to catching up with you within the space that exists for remote learning.